Hello and welcome to the first in a series of Hair and Beauty Technical Qualification webinars. Today we will be looking at our 60-10 for Media Makeup suite of qualifications. I'm Sarah Fioda and I'm your Hair and Beauty Technical Advisor, and I am supported today with the Principal Moderator, Catherine Bobby, for Media Makeup. And Catherine will be running through some hints and tips to support you with your Synoptic assignment. And Catherine is also on hand to help support you with any questions you may have on this 1 hour webinar. So let's do some housekeeping and move on to the agenda. So we're presenting this webinar from home and from different parts of the country, so please bear with us if you hear any background noise. It could be my little poodle having a little fit or somebody ringing on the doorbell, but please do bear with us. A technology check here is if you can confirm that you can hear me by raising your hand in the function bar on the function toolbar on the right hand side of your screen. Please use the question box function to enter your questions, and we will monitor these throughout the as we move through this presentation. The webinar is being recorded and you will receive a copy of it as you are registered, and you will also receive a CPD certificate. So now we're going to move on to our agenda. So for anybody new to technical qualifications on this webinar today, so we do have to cater for everybody, I will be just looking through the structure of the technical qualification. I think that's really important, so we know that's that 60-40 split and what's expected in each qualification. We'll be looking at the progression for university and some really valuable resources and important dates for you to help you plan moving forward. We will also look at the preparation of delivery for technical qualifications, and we will be taking a little deeper dive into the Synoptic assignments for this year. We'll have a brief run through the written exam and completing any documentation. We'll be looking at some further support resources for you, useful contacts, and then any questions you may have. So if we look at the structure of a technical qualification, so our Key Stage 5 technical qualifications allows learner to progress onto an apprenticeship, employment, or to be related into higher education courses. In addition, our technical qualifications can also be used alongside traditional academic courses like GCSEs or A-levels for a more flexible approach to learning. So let's take a look at this structure. As you can see here, it's a 60-40 split, and 60% of that is based around that Synoptic assignment, which is an endpoint assessment. It's an end test, it's a trade test. It's whatever we call it, a Synoptic assignment, but think about it, it's that person being able to run a column or work in media makeup to time, making sure that they can apply the knowledge, skills and understanding from the breadth of the mandatory qualifications content in an integrated way. And each technical qualification has a 40% hit on their theory exam, and this again is showing that knowledge, critical knowledge, as I would say, across the mandatory qualification content. Now, as we can see here, for each technical, we do say it's a substantial endpoint assessment because it weighs in at 60%. 40% is your theory exam, but you do have other components that you need to make sure that you achieve with your learners. And not all technical qualifications have optional units, like the level 2 in media makeup. Artistry doesn't have optional units, whereas the 2 level 3s do. But all Key Stage 5 technical qualifications do have employer involvement, and we'll go through as we move through this this presentation. Okay, so again, we're going to look at the qualification itself, Synoptic, assignment, theory, employer involvement, and additional mandatory units, which are really, really important. So the examinations are externally set and externally marked, and will be sat online through City and Guild's computer-based assessment platform. The exam assesses the depth and breadth of the candidate's understanding of the mandatory content within the qualification. We have our employer involvement, key stage 5 only. I mean, the employer involvement is required, is a requirement and must be successfully met in order for the learners to achieve the qualification. And we do have a form where you can record this. Although the employer involvement doesn't contribute to the overall qualification grading, employer involvement in the delivery and the assessment or the assessment of the qualification is essential for candidates, and therefore will be externally quality assured by City and Guilds. Optional units, these assignments are externally set and internally marked and externally moderated, and are designed to assess a specific optional task or area of that qualification. To do this, the candidate will be required to identify and use effectively the appropriate selection of skills, techniques, concepts, theories, and knowledge across the whole content area. So all elements are mandatory to achieve a technical qualification. Although employer involvement is only required for Key Stage 5, however, only the Synoptic assessments contributes to the final grade. And there is no direct claim status for any of these components. The centres will not be able to claim results themselves. And that's just a really quick whistle-stop tour. Again, here we have our progression to university. Media makeup is probably the one qualification that has that natural progression from doing level 2 makeup artistry to level 3 makeup artistry to theatrical and media makeup, special effects, onto then a university programme. So our level 3 qualifications can help a learner progress into university. The UCAS tariff points that our level 3 technical qualifications carry are aligned with A levels, depending on their grades and size, and by undertaking a technical qualification, a learner can strengthen their application for an undergraduate degree in the UK. So City and Guilds technical qualifications are practical courses that have been designed with employers for 14 to 19-year-olds, and they have been recognised on par with GCSEs and A levels and carry UCAS points at level 3. So these qualifications can progress onto an apprenticeship, university, or go straight into a job. Now, I want to really take a deep dive now into the resources that we have there for you on our website. And on the tab on our website, we have it says Technicals, and if you go in there, it says Support Resources. We have so much information on there to help you deliver a healthy technical qualification, and all the resources we have will support you on your journey. So these are the generic resources we have. We have our welcome pack. Now our welcome pack is uploaded at the end of August for you delivering in September. This document is so important. It gives you key dates for your diary, when registrations are to be made, when you have to put say what your optional units you want to take, and that's really, really important. On this resource page that we have for you, we have our technical checklist. And this, for me, the technical checklist, I would have one for every qualification I was delivering on. So if you've got if you've got level 2 and 2 level 3s, you'd need 3 of those to make sure that you would actually every month done exactly what it says and tick the box to say, yeah, I've done that, that's fine. Yeah, I've done that. As you can see, I think it's November, we give you a break. And I think you get a break as well further on in the year where there's nothing for you to do, but it just keeps you on track, maybe as the lead moderator or the lead IQA, or even as a teacher, what you actually need to be doing on that month to make sure that you put everything up onto the portal and meet our deadlines. We also, on the page, as you can see there, we have it is obviously support resources. And if you go down onto the page, there's a little red box there that says updates, teaching and learning resources. Now what we have here, and I've just put a blue arrow across, is events and webinars. And we have our past webinars on there, which are really, really important. And we have 4 of those that I would suggest everybody watches and then comes back into the room and does some sort of standardisation meeting on these 4 videos that have been on the website since we started running technical qualifications, because it really will give you a full overview and understanding of the delivery of a technical synoptic assessment, it also with the marketing and moderation, your employer involvement and submission of evidence on the moderation portal. I have put a link on this slide for you. And also the teaching qualification, the technical qualification, teaching and learning and assessment is an absolutely brilliant document, and I would use that alongside my marking and moderation document for your standardisation sessions moving forward. So we have our moderation portal, and familiarise yourself with the moderation portal centre user guide, because this is really, really important. It's an online administration platform used to facilitate the submission of marks and evidence and the moderation of the Synoptic assignment, centre assessed components and employer involvement. And there's a link there for you to access the moderation portal, but that's basically what the page looks like. And there's a link there for you to download a copy of the user guide to familiarise yourself with that. Now I'm going to hand over to Catherine here, because she's going to talk to you as a principal moderator of what really should be uploaded, what the moderators would like you to upload.
Hi everybody. Yes, I just wanted to talk about the upload and how to do it. So obviously you'll be collecting information from the candidates. Now, it's up to the candidates to collate their information and store their information. The easiest way for you as assessors and tutors is if the candidates had a folder and that they uploaded all their information in a folder. By all means, have a copy yourselves, but it is the responsibility of the candidate. Now, they can do this collating of information however they want, but it needs to be in a logical order. We do have some centres that use a PowerPoint, so they can start off with their top of their PowerPoint, their research photographs of their lookbook, and moving on to their plans, maybe some test shots, and then looking at the before photographs and after photographs of the finished look. Any piece of information that you're sending in must have the candidate's name and number on it. That's really, really important, especially if it's being uploaded individually. Each piece of work needs the candidate's name and number. And the quality of the photographs, please check the quality of the photographs. You have to remember, by the time we as moderators get the photographic evidence, the more times it goes through a system, the more pixelated it gets. So if it's a poor photograph to start with, by the time we get it, it's even worse. So good quality photographic evidence. And all information, once it's completed, must be saved as a PDF, and then it will not move at all. So even on a PowerPoint presentation, one picture per page. Again, this is very, very important because it means that we can zoom in and look at the quality of the work and look at the techniques that have been used. And if it's not saved as a PDF, it moves all over the place and we can't see the evidence. That is a really, really important part for the moderator for this qualification, the photographic evidence.
Thanks, Catherine. What I've suggested to a lot of the centres who've contacted me this year is to use one PowerPoint. The first slide would be the learner's name, their learner number, the college name and the college number. And I think that's a really good start for a moderator to know that everything's on one PowerPoint itself. And you know, all you have to do is to save it to a PDF, is go over to save file and export, and then zip it down. So it's just easier for the moderation portal to cope with your uploading. Thanks, Catherine.
And also, if you put it in a folder, you literally just drag and drop it onto the portal. It's so simple if you do that.
Fantastic. Great tip there. So I'm just going to highlight this webinar that has been floating around for a while, that I feel that most centres or all centres who actually come on board with us, they sent this webinar because it's a really good webinar helping you to prepare for the delivery of technical qualifications. Now, I have put the link to this video here. And again, I would suggest, even if you've been running for years, sometimes it's really good just to go back to the basics and have a good old nosy around. And did you miss something? So that's just there as a valuable resource for you. Now, when I spoke to you earlier on the valuable resource page, and you could see that once you hit technicals and you go to support resources, we have updates in there, teaching and learning resources, the newsletter will be in there, the events and webinars, the portals in there, results and grade information for you there, all our curriculum plans there for you, and so on. And I'm going to strongly suggest that you really do look at this 4-part series of the delivery of the Synoptic, the learner and centre produced evidence for the Synoptic, the marking and standardisation. And standardisation is so important with these qualifications, because markers need to be making sure they're marking within tolerance of each other. And if you are, it shows that you have had some form of standardisation as you've moved along the journey. And then that submission of the evidence via the moderation portal. Now, this slide to me is what we have to offer you. I mean, this is what I've just spoke to you about, is all on a generic website. But when you go into your, if you go into the right-hand corner of our website, you've got a little search box there. If you put 6010 in, it'll take you down to the media makeup qualifications. And under documents, we have everything there. All the resources we have there are for you to use, and you've had your live synoptic on there, but you'll also find past synoptics to help you help that learner be able to perform and showcase themselves on the day. Now, the handbooks there, they are your teaching syllabus. We have got non-live and live assignments. The live assignments you can't show the learner obviously until the beginning of January of the academic year. And we have what I believe are brilliant specific qualification exam guides. And that really does tell you in the exam guide what is going to be tested in their written test. Now, we have our qualification reports. We have our principal moderators reports, chief examiner reports. Now, these for me are so important, because it's not about you in your area, it's about nationally, what is going on nationally. And, when you read into those reports, it can really help you to, highlight, oh, well, last year, they weren't so good at this, but this year they are, or last year they weren't good on it, and this year they're not good on it. So I think it's about really drilling down as a team with these reports and seeing where the strengths and weaknesses are across the nation to help you and help your learners to have a better experience. Again, we have our past papers and marking guides, great to be used for exam prep. And like I said, we have these sample synoptics that can be used for formative assignments. And we have examples of questions, and that will prepare the learner for their exam. I've also put here a link from Catherine Bobby, the principal moderator, and this is a YouTube link, and it gives examples of past candidates who have completed the synoptic. So it gives you a good pass candidate and a distinction candidate, and the link is there. So all these resources are there for you, and any learner who's savvy could go onto the City and Girls website and actually download these themselves. I mean, the only thing that's password protected is the synoptic assignment. Everything else is for open for general public. So I would be using this documentation to go through the technical qualification with my learner. Now I'm going to hand over back to Catherine regarding ongoing formative assessment.
Hi. So the formative assessments, I just wanted everybody to be aware that they can use the optional units for formative assessments. All our optional units are part of the syllabus, and for me, I feel that this would be a really good chance for the candidates to have an experience of the exam conditions. The other reason to use the optional units for the formative assessment is that the optional units are the only part of the exam that they can actually repeat. So if you had somebody that didn't perform well or even failed, they've got the opportunity of the optional units to retake it. Or if somebody wanted to improve their grade, they could retake the optional unit and improve their grade. but it'll just give the candidates a really good insight to how to perform in the Synoptic. And the other thing is, for our qualification, we've got a large number of optional units to complete, and realistically to do them all after they've completed the Synoptic, which sometimes isn't finished until end of May, beginning of June, is really hard going for the candidates. So you have got that option. You don't have to do it, but I would. I feel that it is valuable, and it is a good way to introduce your optional units and the exam process for the candidates.
Thank you, Catherine. So now we're looking at preparation for delivery of the technical qualifications. We've put together a few examples of good practice, and these have been spotted by our moderators at some centres. So we thought today we'd share them with you. So we feel that this is an excellent idea, which one of our centre teams carried out, having a discussion about the Synoptic, making sure that you're all on the same page with it, and then completing the forms and emailing them to us, emailing us your queries if you have any. This will really set you up in good stead for the rest of the academic year. Also looking at the delivery plans and considering all dates you need to adhere to. Each year you'll receive the moderator feedback, as I've spoke about, and it would be an excellent idea to look at the last few years if you're delivering that along, and it really take time at the start of the academic year to understand how you can put the suggestions in place. Deciding who will undertake the IQA is a huge part of the process, and it's imperative that this aspect of delivery is not forgotten and that quality assurance does occur. Sometimes we see templates will help or hinder learners. So reviewing them and making sure that you use a blank template will really support your learner on their journey. And finally, planning when the Synoptic will take place, working backwards from the required date you need to upload the evidence to the moderation portal, and then consider how long it's going to take you to mark IQA standardisation. This will allow you to manage the process more efficiently. And all of these points can take place in the initial planning and staff meetings, so you're ready for an excellent experience with our qualifications. So now let's take a look at this Synoptic assignment and the actual course requirements. So if we look at our the three that we have under our 60-10 number, so we have our level 2 technical certificate in makeup artistry, and as you can see there, there's a mood board and there are no optional units. If you look at the level 3 advanced technical diploma in media makeup artistry, there are 5 optional units and an industry portfolio or lookbook. And for the theatrical and media makeup, again, it's 5 optional units with the industry portfolio or lookbook. And again, we all know that there's going to be a knowledge exam. It's dated and it's online and it's paper-based or paper-based. We've got the Synoptic assignment, which is your endpoint assessment, your trade test, what you would do if you were going into employment. And we have that substantial industry portfolio there. So to support that, this portfolio is to support preparing the candidates for employment in the makeup industry. And I think this is really, really important because they've got to really showcase their work when they go out there. So again, get them working on that is creativity. This qualification is all about their own creativity. Most important things for me with any of the technical qualifications is you have your handbook and you have your exam guide to hand. They work, whatever's in pink, you teach them. But when you want to look at what's going to be in the exam, you need the exam guide. And as you can see here, there are only 4 units that are going to be, the only critical knowledge from those 4 units will be in that exam. So it's about looking at the handbook and seeing, the learning outcomes, the topics, the unit number, learning outcomes topics, and the marks for that, and highlighting it on your handbook where you need to go back to do revision with your learners for that written exam. So the level 2 makeup artistry is made up of 6 units. Obviously, we have the theory exam, the synoptic assignment, and we have the employer involvement. So that's just for your information there. Now I'm going to hand over to Catherine to go through the assignment brief, and this is this year's assignment brief.
Okay, I take it you've all had a look at the assignment brief, and if you have any questions on this, then please by all means contact us. Just a few points just wanted to make very, very clear is that we do not want any pro forma used for any of the qualifications. The client cards need to be designed by the candidates, and the mood boards need to be present and need to show the process of the candidate's design. So it could be that they've gathered a lot of information on the 1990s grunge, and then it should move on to what they've chosen to do to recreate their look. So it is all about the creativity, as Sarah said, but it's also about starting to think about their client cards. When I was delivering this, it's one of the first things I used to give the level 2s is as homework to go and design their own client card, and then they can again perfect it so they've got their own style on it.
I also think in that we need to look at realistic budgets should be created, ensuring all factors of the budget is considered. Yeah, when they break down the cost of products, and there's an awful lot of things in there. And if anybody wants to have a one-to-one with me, then I can go through that further with you. Do you have anything else to add there?
Yeah, so just in fact, I've just forgotten what I was going to say. Just gone out of my head. Let me come back to that because I had a thought then, and it's yes, that's what I wanted to say. Sorry. Just to remind people that when, as moderators, we're looking at the synoptic as a whole, so we're looking at makeup and hair. Now, I know some candidates don't like doing hair, but it is equal evidence we're looking for on the hair and the makeup for all the qualifications.
Yeah, I think that's a really key point, because I remember once when the qualification first came out, I went to a centre and the makeup was amazing, absolutely amazing, but the hair just wasn't there. There was nothing to the hair. Yeah, there was 2 candidates I was looking at, and one candidate, and makeup was okay, mediocre. It wasn't as good as the other candidate, but the finish on the hair was amazing. So she had the whole package. So really, think about that, and I really want you to think about the evaluation. At task 3 is so important. Really getting to look at the strengths and weaknesses and justifications for any adjustments that they might make. Like I said, like Catherine said, please don't provide pro formas. It's all about the learner. It's all about the learner design and the learner creation.
And also to remember, if something goes wrong, that's not a fail. That's something they can use in their evaluation, and they can tell the story in their evaluation of what went wrong. I mean, the most common, and it happens everywhere, is the model gets changed. They can use their evaluation as to how they adjusted their look to fit the design plan. Because I know candidates get really stressed out when they've got a change of model, but it happens in industry, and it would not be a fail, it would be how they dealt with it. And also, we would want your comments on that on the PO form, but we're going on to the PO form a bit later.
Okay, thanks, Kat. So let's look at the level 3 media makeup. Again, this is here's a structure. The learners complete 7 mandatory units, and we've also got the optional units there, which they have to meet 180 guided learning hours, and that's your choice or the learner's choice, whichever way you're going to use that. And you can see that you have that written exam, you have the trade test, which is just synoptic, and you also have your portfolio of creative work. and then they're the optional units and your employer involvement. We'll go on to the brief now.
So again, with all 3 qualifications, it is the candidates in interpretation. So what we're looking for is their creativity, as we said before, but also how they got to their look. So it's not a pass or a fail. It's how they came to produce that look. So it needs to be linked. The whole package needs to be linked from their research to their ideas and the finished look, so that we should see links across all their planning. So
yeah,
it's entirely up to them what they would like to do. There's no pass or fail of how they interpret the brief. It's just making sure that it links to all their designs, their mood boards on level 2, their consultation, their client cards, so that it all comes together.
I think as well with this one, Catherine, is that the research write-up, it should be an explanation of how and why, they've decided to go for that look, with a bit of a backstory,
Yes.
and not a step-by-step guide of what they're doing. Is that why were they inspired? What really prompted them to want to do that? And again, I'm going to come into that photographic evidence, making sure that it is industry standard. The pose for these photographs, just only do the photographs that tells you, only upload the photographs it states, but get them to start practicing that earlier on, so they get the right lighting. And I will say this as in hairdressing, if you've got somebody with blonde hair, don't use a white backdrop. If you've got somebody, use a dark backdrop. If you've got somebody with dark hair, use a white backdrop, so we can see detail. And I think that's a really important point. But, really make sure, as Catherine was saying, they won't be downgraded for anything if there is a change of model or they had to adapt at such short notice. It's down to that evaluation, making sure that that they've explained the reasons why they've had to adapt. So let's move on to our special effects. So again, here 7 mandatory units, and obviously the optional units, your written test, your trade test, and also your portfolio of evidence, and also your employer involvement. And we'll just take a little look at this brief, and where Catherine will come in here.
Yeah, it's very, very important that you take photographs of the special effects. Some of the special effects we see are fantastic, but if you don't tell us that they're there, we can't see them. So we need to know where they are. Now, if the candidate is very good at doing their planning and their research, they will have told us what they're going to do, and we'll be able to go back to the photographs and see that evidence. For the lower learners who maybe aren't as forthcoming with the information with their design plan, then that's where you as an assessor must come in and support them by putting on the PO form again, which we're going to go over in detail in a minute, but making sure that you note what techniques they're using and what special effects they're using. Sometimes when you've been teaching, I'm guilty of this myself, you assume, but when we've not actually seen your candidates at all, and we just get a photographic evidence, and we're looking to see where the body art techniques are, what techniques they've used for putting up the hair, and if it's not in their design plan and you've not supported them on the PO form, we can't actually see it. So one of the things I've said to centres is, look at a photograph of something that you've not seen before, and just look at it and see if you can tell what techniques they've used. You won't be able to. It has to be written in the design plan or supported on the PO form. And the body art, and I know again some candidates do not like body art at all, it is still part of the assessment. And in the level 3, hair must be completed. They're supposed to show a variety of looks over the 3 looks, More importantly for theatrical, that they do something with the hair on the body art, unless they're going to use a ball cap, but they've got less opportunity if they're using a ball cap to show their skills across the 3 looks. Obviously, there is skill, a ball cap, because
really
having the hair. Yes.
I think that's a really key point, you know, because what I think feel that I would be as a moderator, that would show, you know, that the learner has got their own individual creativity, and they will be able to give reasons for the choices of why they've done what they've done. But I also think it also shows that they're taking responsibility for their own work. Again, I think that's key. And for me, a lookbook or whatever industry portfolio, you know, it does showcase the creative side of the candidate's research. And I think tutors sense check that before the completion of the synoptic, just to check that your learners are on the right track. I think, again, that's important. I mean, you can't, as a tutor, you can only advise, you can't tell the candidate what to do. It's all down to their creativity. And again, different models will help that learner to showcase and create different looks, and again, showing their skill along the way. And I think, don't forget your costumes and props. You know, they're really, really important, because it gives you the whole finish again. And what Catherine did state, you know, earlier on in this was, if candidates make a mistake or has to change, you know, things like a model didn't turn up, it doesn't go against them. Just as an industry, you know, we want the candidate to have that raw experience, but be able to, you know, to sort of drill down into the fact that they've got the design plans right, you know, they've got their evaluation correct, and then they're able to, you know, strive for those higher grades, if you like, or marks. I think I'm right there, is that, Catherine?
Yeah, that's absolutely key, because it happens in industry. You know, the number of times I've gone on a shoot and, you know, I was going to have a long-haired model and she's suddenly got short hair. You know, it's thinking on your feet and how you're going to deal with that, and that's what this qualification is about. Also, with the evaluation, we do not want a step-by-step of what happened, as in, I went into reception, brought the model back, sat her down. It's an evaluation is about what they produced, how they produced it, what they thought went well, what they could do differently next time. Not a step-by-step of...
Yeah, not a process of how you do something. Yeah.
The word, not the process, you know, an evaluation of their work. And equally, we don't want, I liked it.
Yeah, I love it. I've had that so many times. Well, did you find like it? I liked it. Did you like it? Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, we need a little bit more than that. Moving on to preparation now of the synoptic. Best practice, you know, familiarise yourself with the synoptic assignment. You know, it's an internal standardisation is vital in ensuring that centres marking of the synoptic is consistent, reliable and accurate. And when centre marking is not standardised, there is an increased risk that the moderation process will result in adjustments being made to marks, and you really don't want that. So it's really, really important. And we do have on there for you, you know, the not live assessments for synoptics, and we have the recording forms to get you used to working with the recording forms. But, you know, do look at the structure, layout, timings and marking. Run mock assessments with them. You know, that would be a big key for me, making sure you know that they could handle that day, because they could be on a shoot, as Catherine's, you know, quite rightly said. They could be on a shoot for hours. You know, they can't be sitting down and, you know, taking a break because they're not used to that sort of environment. So it's making it as realistic as possible for the learners to help them do the best they can on the day. Now I'm just going to touch on assessment objectives. You know, a lot of people are used to working with ERQs and MVQs and even the new standard now. But with the technical qualifications, you know, you're marking against assessment objectives, and that's from AO1 to AO5. In the practical, it would be AO1, AO2 and AO4 for the written exam. So I think really it's important to understand these objectives and work with your learners. Let them see these. They could download them themselves from the website. Let them know what they're being marked against. So AO1 is all about recall of knowledge. AO2 demonstrates their understanding of the different concepts, theories and processes across the qualification. AO3 is it's a shop floor. It's all the technical skills, running a column, being on a shoot, that is the step, that is AO3. And AO4 really brings it all together, you know, from the theory into the practical, bringing it all together in AO4. But the biggest one for me where they can shine is AO5. I class AO5 as the X factor. This is where they demonstrate their creativity, attention to detail. It's where they've got that finesse, you know, they finish it off correctly, you know, and they understand the wider impact of their actions while they've been working with that client or that model. So here we go now to our preparation. So these documents, Catherine's going to take over in a minute, but these documents remain the same. They've never been amended, but they are a requirement. Only so really make sure that when you're actually marking a learner on a mock, you're using your marking guide. You're going down the from AO1 to AO5. You can give feedback to your learner. You know, you're in a band 1. Band 1 does not mean it's a pass. Band 2 is not a merit, and band 3 is not a distinction. We don't know that till the end of the year. But if your learner has got all their marks in band 1, they're more than likely fail at Synoptic. So it's about working with them to help them progress, to develop further skills, to get them from a band 1 to a band 2, from band 2 to a band 3. And now I'll hand over to Catherine.
Hi, yeah, it's just really when you're collating this information on the practical observation form, really, really mindful that all assessors and markers are very, very busy. And I would advise, and again, it's up to you, that you do not handwrite your practical observation form. Now, I know I can't do it. I cannot put the information straight into the practical observation, and I've been doing it for a number of years. I do a Word document, and then I copy and paste the information into the correct box, and it takes minutes. Again, handwritten practical observations, by the time they've gone scanned, dropped onto the portal, and then we downloaded them, it becomes very pixelated, and sometimes we just can't read the handwriting. So we would really strongly advise that you type all these documents up. And the practical observation form, the PO form, is where you're detailing all the level of skill they've used. When we come for our visits, we're looking at the practical. So the practical observation form should have already been started with the details of task 1, where they fit in the bands for the research and the design plan. These must be looked at before the candidates start their practical observation. Because this is, again, you can't tell them, but you could advise that they re-look at their research and make sure that they've not missed anything or that they're happy with the outcome. You can't tell them what to do, but this is the opportunity before they start their practical observation that they have read the brief and completed everything that's been asked of them. And also on the practical observation form, we're looking for the level. They might start off, for example, with a haircut, very strong sectioning, but when it actually comes to the cut, they're very, very nervous. That's absolutely fine, but you know how they went through that process. What were they confident at? What were they nervous at? And what was the final look like? And with the haircut, please, can we have before and after photographs? And please, can you label them as well? Because if they've only taken a smidgen off the hair, it is very difficult for us again to see the fit, which is the finished look.
Thank you.
And then on the sorry, Sarah, if the practical observation form is completed well, then the candidate record form, when they've completed everything, will be much, much easier to fill out and grade, because once you've got all the information, we don't want lots and lots of practical observation forms. One is absolutely fine with all the information per candidate. And again, one candidate record form per candidate. And if you just look, they will naturally fall into a grade. Be careful as well when you're grading the candidates. They may excel in one field of the makeup. That would not necessarily mean they will be a distinction candidate. If they're weaker at body art or not really interested in the historical side of things, then that would bring them down. So just be very, very careful. Sometimes we can actually see why you're grading a candidate high because they have got an outstanding piece of work, but it's across all three looks. And again, as I said before, it's equal. It's regarding the costume, the finished look, the hair, and you know, the body art. They can excel in two areas, but maybe not particularly interested in body art. So they might not be a high distinction, but maybe a low distinction. That bit depending on the finished look. So be very, very mindful that you're marking these candidates as a whole. The other thing as well is it is nothing to do with how the candidate has done through the year. I always say it's a bit like Strictly, it's how they perform on the day. So unfortunately, you may have some excellent candidates who have performed very, very well all year and then don't perform as you expected to them on the synoptic day, and vice versa. You might have somebody who's been quite poor all year, but my goodness, they pull it out of the bag on the synoptic day. So we're just looking at the evidence and we're not looking at any opinions of that candidate. It's what the evidence they have produced. Thank you, Sarah.
So just a quick guide there to the synoptic assignment. You know, please do have a look at the information on the marking and moderation of a synoptic assignment, including the interpretation of these assessment objectives, and use your marking grid, as I stated earlier. And you know, please consult the qualification handbook, this sample assessments, and this guide that is on the screen now. And they're all available on the website, and I have put the link there for you for this moderation guide. Now we'll have a quick look through the written exam. Again, we've got a great video webinar here for you, preparing learners for the Technical Qualifications theory exam. It's a YouTube, there's a YouTube link there. Very, very important that you take a look at that. Your learners can get this from YouTube themselves. So I'll be having a half-an-hour tutorial with them, preparing them for this exam. Again, the biggest thing you need together now is your qualification handbook and your exam guide to see exactly what is going to be critical, what critical knowledge is going to be in that exam. So exam specifications, I think, Catherine, you wanted to come in with something with question 9, was it?
Yeah. Yes, question 9. We have two it's not question 9 at all. We have two big questions at the end of the exam. They are different, and the candidates need to distinguish between the two large questions at the end. It's the 9-mark questions. And a number of the times we will get one of the questions answered very, very well, and then the second one is just a repeat of what they put in the first answer. So they need to look at the wording. Again, when I was doing this, and it's entirely up to you, I used to use a spidergram to get the students to look at the different evidence that they needed to collate to finish these questions, and also to go to the question and highlight the key words. You know, so some of them are questions about fashion shows. There's different environments that the candidates can work, and they need to look at those. So a number of candidates will lose marks because they haven't actually read the question properly, Also, if it's a state question, they just need to list. They don't need to put an explanation. They just need to list. So if they're asked to state something or list something, that's all they need to do. If they're asked to explain, they need to explain the answer.
Super.
And the resources there are really, really good to help, and also looking at the past papers. But I do think most centres had an insight to marking papers, which I think would have helped as well.
So this brings us nicely into the past papers. We do have 2 past papers on the website for you to use. You know, get the learners familiar with these papers, you know, and really when you're doing these past papers, put them under exam conditions. As you can see here, this past paper states the exams from 1:30 till 4:10. They need to be sat there from 1:30 till 4:10, just like a GCSE. I think it's really important for you to, you know, make note of that and look at the moderator's report there that will give you some ideas of where they go wrong on those written exams. Just a reminder here of the exams and the achievement rates here. As you can see, we've got, I think it's 96%, 99% and 100%, which I think are absolutely brilliant. And it's just letting you know when our first spring exam series starts, or when the spring series starts, and when the results will be through. Employer involvement, again, if you go into your welcome pack, it tells you what employer involvement is required this year. It's the same as last year due to COVID. So they can have demonstrations by professionals on virtual platforms. They can access professional association forums, virtual tours of employers' workplace, virtual discussions. I've got one tomorrow where I'm coming in talking to some students from a college about my experience in the industry. And they're going to ask me loads of questions and probably put me on the spot. But, you know, hey ho, it's all involvement, and it's actually giving them some inspiration. So our further support resources for you here, we have our wonderful learner journals. These are downloadable free of charge from the website under additional information. Definitely use these. I think they're great for recording, you know, what the learner knows and what they don't know. And it'll help you go back into tutorials to support them to be able to get that critical knowledge that they need. We have our smart screen platform for our 6010, again, with great resources on there from schemes of work, PowerPoints, handouts, worksheets, and revision questions. So I would definitely utilize the smart screen package if you have that. And again, we have our 2 great media makeup books. We have, like I said, we have our tutor resources for all the qualifications, enhanced smart screens, and we have digital credentials for every qualification. So when you register your learner, you know, you need to register their email address, and they will get, when they've completed, they will get a digital credential straight away. Generic contacts here, I put the contacts in there for our technical quality team, email address and their telephone number. But if you have any specific, you know, just generic centre support questions, then please go to centresupport@cityandguilds.com. If you have any technical, you know, media makeup, technical qualifications, I'm your first port of call to come through to. So please email me, and we can always arrange to support you. So you've got my email address there, the industry manager's email address, and I would ask that you all hit the link at the bottom there where it says register for email updates. When we send out alerts, we like to hit a big reach, but unless you've actually signed up for those email alerts, then you will be back of the queue for what information is coming out. So really do make sure that you sign up there and just state what areas you're going to look at. We have, like all of our webinars, you know, for you guys, I can only do a webinar on the feedback that you give me. So I've got a QR code there for you to take, and there's also a link. Just go straight to the website to complete a form. It's really important that I get your feedback. You know, is it useful for you? What do you want further? Do you want to see me? Do you want me to come in as a face-to-face, or do you want me to come in on a Teams meeting with your team? And that brings us really now to the end of our presentation, and we will be looking at questions. So I'm going to have a little look at questions, and Catherine's here with all her expertise. So I think we've got one: is it authentic or inspired for 1990s grunge?
So this is the level 2 qualification. And again, we would want to see the research and the mood board put together, and then it would be up to the candidate how they use the information. So it could be a inspired, or it could be an authentic. It would be up to them. Again, the brief is not, unless it's set in stone. So for the body art, it has to be face and upper body. Those are specific directions, whereas this, it just says, your research into the 1990s grunge historical and fashion influences to support the exhibition designs as well as the research. So, Helen, does that answer your question? Do you want to come off mute? Helen Lee? Sarah, will you have to take them off mute?
No, I can't actually. No, well,
that's fine. So you're happy with that response? That's great. Thank you, Helen. Has anybody else got any other questions?
Please put them in the chat, and if not, you can email myself, and I'll make sure that I get back to you. But you can also please fill in our survey at the end of this webinar. It's really important, like I say, that we can give you a steady service, and obviously design webinars that will suit your needs. I think with that we are now nearly at 12 o'clock, and I don't think there is any more questions. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank Catherine, Bobby, as principal moderator, for supporting myself on this webinar, and I'd like to thank you all for attending, and I do wish you a good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.